So?
Jesus, so what?
How's he doing?
How should I know?
What, you haven't heard from him?
He's a wanted criminal, Colin.
So's my nan, but she never misses a birthday.
Your grandmother's on the run, Colin.
Yeah. Armed robbery, resisting arrest, double homicide of the same bloke. She's a right laugh.
I hope he's all right, though. No.
He's got this far, and your brother was fine. Going in 10 seconds, everybody! I wonder what they're doing to him.
Annoying him, probably.
Not probably, definitely. Going in 5, 4, 3...
Good evening. This is the National Nightly News broadcasting across the territories. My name is Megan Wolfe. Our top stories tonight. Future legend. It's been 40 days since Disrupt conducted multiple attacks across the territories. During the coordinated action, subsequently dubbed the Night of Fire, emergency services were kept busy at the agricultural centres, while a series of covert attacks were carried out freeing political prisoners, including former newsman Jeremy Donaldson. Nothing has been heard from the missing journalist since the violent Disrupt attack on his convoy 6 weeks ago. Donaldson was on his way back to Betterment after his notorious court appearance. All of us here at Channel 1 hope that wherever he is now, he's safe. The disgraced former journalist was obviously considered a high-value target by Disrupt, who had often championed him as a possible new voice for their cause. We encourage you to turn yourself into the CCOs, Jeremy, if you can, wherever you are right now.
Because I don't want to go on a date with your cousin, Colin.
What have you got to lose?
My dignity, my reputation.
He's all right once you get past the teeth and the problematic tattoo.
I am perfectly capable of messing up my own love life.
Sorry about that. David wouldn't get off the phone.
Oh, is David single?
For Christ's sake, Colin, stay out of it.
I can help you. I'm an expert at romance. Ask my ex-wives.
Please don't set me up with your brother. That's 10 seconds, everybody.
You're not as tight, babe.
Too short?
Too smart.
Going in 5, 4, 3...
Good evening. This is the National Nightly News broadcasting across the territories. My name is Megan Wolfe. Our top stories tonight. Ashes to ashes. It's been 40 days since Disrupt conducted attacks across the territories. The coordinated action, dubbed the Night of Fire by commentators, was seen as an attempt to subvert the supply chain, but there may have been more to it. While emergency services were all kept busy at the agricultural centres, it seems a series of covert attacks was carried out, including the freeing of political prisoners and, sources say, several assassination attempts. The Department of Betterment have declined to comment. After a roadside IED toppled the convoy, prisoners, including Portia Hamilton-Mann, the daughter of the former Prime Minister, were freed and have subsequently vanished. The escapees are presumed to have fled the territories. Here at Channel 1, we say good riddance to bad rubbish. Food, glorious food. With the last of the menu centres opening in territories 5, 8 and 14 today, Advance confirmed that the programme is now in full operation, providing free food for every citizen of the new future. What started as rationing during the 20-week war has blossomed into a social contract that is the envy of the unawakened world. Promising a healthy, nutritious diet designed to keep all citizens at peak performance, the menu centres used locally sourced produce for that farm-to-plate experience, without the need for spreading manure in your tighty-whities. Jack Tractorpants, spokesman for the menu centres, said today that while they can guarantee the contents of every box is nutritious, the actual quality of the meals you cook depends on whether you have a touch of Chef Jordan Rankley or the culinary skills of a professional footballer. Happy talk. Record happiness levels have been reported today across the territories. As more and more former countries join the new future, a survey carried out by scientists at Queensview University reveals a stunning fall in depression, self-harm and suicides, especially in those territories which have historically faced the most unjust of indivisions. According to the professors, the binominal trajectories of the Bezier distribution show signs of becoming both inverted and protracted when dispersed over the square root of time. By applying Harrington's third law in conjunction with the vowels variation, we can clearly see that things are looking mathematically good for Julia Salisbury and Advance. Professors Whiff Piffle and Grantley Major said that their rigorous statistical analysis left them in no doubt that things are numerically better for everyone everywhere. So if you think you're feeling down in the dumps tonight, you're empirically wrong. If I were a rich man. Problems in territories 11, 17 and 22 today as striking bosses attempted to undermine their new economies. With seemingly no awareness of irony, the former CEOs and MDs have come together to form the Wealth Creators Union, with demands including a return to 150% bonuses, private jets and mandatory grovelling zones. In an annoying show of petulance, the former elites drove their luxury vehicles at 10 miles per hour up and down the motorways of their respective territories. The coordinated protest of elites inconvenienced several 100,000 of their employees. Advance have been quick to respond, saying if they would rather quit their cushy jobs to become nurses or teachers, they'll earn significantly more than they used to pay their own workforce. Thus far, no one has taken up the challenge. Something's coming. Unsubstantiated rumours here in Territory 1 of armed protests tonight by increasingly desperate disrupt terrorists. Despite the best efforts by the government, the self-styled resistance movement has continued to carry out a series of ever more extreme attacks. Increasingly unstable disrupt spokesperson, the conspiracy nut Alan James, has not ceased in his lurid attempts to radicalise the public against Advance. When asked about Disrupt's future plans, inexplicably popular spokesman Alan James answered, "You won't have to wait long to find out." Thanks, Alan. Opaque as always. Some fun now. Signs of ever more resistance to Advance's radical policies today as popular resistance movement Disrupt extended their reach further across the territories. The organisation's emblem appeared in every major city across the territories last night in a well-coordinated publicity stunt, which has seen them dominate the headlines. Asked about the impressive display earlier today, Disrupt spokesperson Alan James said that the movement was reaching what he described as a critical mass. A poor choice of words given recent history. While it's beyond debate that Disrupt's membership is growing at a rapid pace, not everyone seems to be as energetic about it as spokesperson Alan James would have us believe. Especially not this resident of Grottingberg Zoo in Territory 6, who seems remarkably unenthused about global politics. Any dream will do. Oddball Disrupt spokesman Alan James today set out Disrupt's vision for what he calls a return to free society. However, the problematic provocateur avoided answering any questions on the movement's increasingly sinister tactics. Leading commentator and regular guest on the National Nightly News, Katie Brightman, has been notably outspoken against both Disrupt and Mr. James himself. Her family reported today that she's not been seen since last Tuesday. This image, captured on a long lens by journalists working at the Daily Scandal, shows a clandestine meeting between former Prime Minister Jacob Hamilton Mann and Ivan Vodovich, formerly of Urkistan, thought killed on Liberation Night. Is this part of Disrupt's secretive leadership? Mr. James refused to comment. And an ending of sorts tonight for three stories we've been following. A fistful of dollars. After a highly profitable year, Rimington's Fist today announced the opening of their new high-tech underwater corporate HQ. Astounding CEO Sophia Rimington, pictured here, departing for the new HQ built using underwater FLAD technology, commented, "We've put windows everywhere, saves a fortune on aquariums." A happy ending there for Sophia Rimington. And a few stories we've been following for a while reach their conclusions tonight. Swing low, sweet chariot. The national outbreak of low-hanging testicular syndrome has been finally traced back to the activities of Rimington's Fist. What had at first seemed like a booming success for Sophia Rimington's pet project has ended uncomfortably for men throughout the territories. A slightly tipsy Sophia, who resigned this morning, commented that the men should stop whinging before driving off so quickly that one photographer's foot and both of his nuts were run over in the kerfuffle after falling out of the bottom of his trousers. A painful end to a difficult reign for the youngest female CEO in history. Meanwhile, three stories we've been following reach interesting endings this evening. Weeping Sfors. Responsibilities overwhelming success in controlling pregnancy seems to have come with unforeseen consequences as sexually transmitted infections soar across the territories. Of particular concern is a new super herpes mutation, which one sufferer described as like being fisted up my inflamed Rimington. Not the legacy the CEO would want after a tempestuous 2 years at the top. She resigned this morning. And 3 stories we've been obsessing over reached their conclusions today. Svist me like it's Christmas. With the overwhelming success of Responsibility welcoming a new age of free love, Svenland-style orgy houses have been springing up throughout the territories. Newest among them is the Fellatio Nelson, which, like so many of its competitors, is run by an entirely female management team and promises, amongst other delights, a hearty kiss for your one-eyed admiral. Looks like Sophia Rimington's time at the top has reached a long, deep, satisfying climax. And endings of sorts tonight for 3 stories we've been reporting on. First tonight, Stroke My Head and Call Me Bishop. Although Responsibility proved a commercial failure, mainly due to men's inability to regularly take it, an unforeseen side effect of the drug has seen it relaunched today as Baldylocks. Promising an end to male pattern baldness, the launch has follically challenged men celebrating throughout the territories. Frank Slapbegone, pictured here just 1 hour after taking the rebranded medication, enthused that his wife, and I quote, will sleep better now that the reading light isn't bouncing off my head and keeping her awake. 3 stories we've been reporting on reached their revelatory conclusions today. Firstly, Driver Flard Bargain. Capitalising on the global success of Die Flard the movie, Transformative CEO Sophia Rimington today welcomed followers to the First United Church of Flard. Sophia, who quit her role as CEO of Rimington's Fist to take up the role of High Flard Mistress, said the idea came to her in a vision, saying, I was elbow deep in Blunderclatch when I felt something unexpectedly Flard. A surprising ending there for Sophia Rimington, after a turbulent 2.5 years running the company. 3 of our regular stories come to an end tonight. First, a Flard rain's gonna fall. More tragic photographs emerged today from Sophia Rimington's failed Flard Festival. Arrivals at the island paradise were shocked to discover that the accommodation was on fire, the ocean was missing, and the only music was Jackson Hamstring's Banjo Fantastic, with 81-year-old Jackson Hamstring, who mercifully appeared to have forgotten his banjo. One crying attendee told reporters, I came here to find my inner Flard, but all I discovered was what it's really like to be a paw. Whilst most of the blame has been passed to event manager Jimmy Longcon, Sophia Rimington's resignation is expected in the coming days. Surely not the way she'd have liked her tenure as CEO to end. And an ending of sorts tonight for 3 stories we've been following. A Svilk purse out of a Svow's ear. After her pet project was seen to fail miserably last year, an undaunted Sophia Rimington today announced exciting plans for the world's biggest landfill, promising there's cash in all that trash. Dubbed Big Stinky by protesting residents of nearby town Calamity, the massive hole should be perfect for disposing of surplus Flards, AT cartridges, and the unwanted gadgets made by talented children from across the pond. By pulling success from the fires of potential failure again, Sophia Rimington ends a turbulent 2.5 years as CEO at the top of her game. 3 stories come to their ends today. Svankelbiters, Rimington's Fist's junior employment opportunity scheme, today admitted its youngest ever worker, breaking new boundaries for Camp Busyfingers. Little Freddie Nails, seen here with his hammer, certainly proves that Sophia Rimington has an instinct for success. With the production of tat at an all-time high, the camp really has to be the crowning achievement of the unique CEO's time at the top, and it looks like she'll be there for many a year to come. Possibly even until some of the workforce starts school. 3 of our longest running stories reached a natural conclusion today. First, survival of the fittest. A controversial final nail in the coffin of Camp Busyfingers today as the factory, rebranded as a juvenile detention centre, declared itself an independent state. All has been quiet from the camp in the 2 months since the guards quit, simultaneously declaring the residents unmanageable due to a total lack of parenting. However, it looks like young Alfie Plank, now going by the name of Sahardnut Pooh-Faced Dogfart the Mighty, has found a way to keep things under control. Here at the National Nightly News, we wish him the very best of luck in his new role as Lord of the Pies. Sophia Rimington, meanwhile, was fired by the board this morning and left the corporate HQ muttering something about repurposing Mr. Snugglehugs. And final headlines tonight for 3 stories we've been following closely for the last 2.5 years. Foreign soil. A glimpse today of failed CEO Sophia Rimington, who, facing serious criminal charges centred around the details of her pet project, has spent the last year in refuge at the Malvalian Embassy here in the capital. With no end in sight to her self-imposed isolation, the board of Remington's Fist removed her as CEO in absentia this morning by a unanimous vote. Sophia was heard to yell something obscene in Malvalian at the assembled journalists before slinking back inside. We didn't catch all of it, but it was something about our mother and a goat. And climaxes tonight for 3 stories we've been following. An iron's fist in a velvet glove. Disaster at the High Court today as Remington's Fist loses their court battle against local residents. Regular viewers will remember that after a cocktail of dangerous explosives was used to accelerate the MOOBS project last year, 3 nature reserves, an ancient burial ground and the entire town of Calamity fell into the resultant hole. CEO Sophia Remington, seen here leaving the High Court after the judge's damning verdict, is expected to resign before the end of the day. I guess you could say a boss lady go boom boom. A disappointing ending to an explosive time for the youngest female CEO in history. 3 of our regular stories reach their natural conclusions tonight. CEO RIP. Sad news today as the remains of missing Sophia Remington were found this morning at the company's Grizzleford facility. Sophia had become ever more reclusive following the total and utter failure of her pet project. Having flung herself into one of the toxic preparation vats, she was only identifiable by her ears. A spokesman for Remington's Fist said, "Sophia will remain in our hearts and in the approximately 45,000 flards that rolled off the production line in the last few days." A tragic ending for Sophia Remington after a turbulent 2.5 years since she took over the company. Having flung herself into one of the toxic preparation vats, she was only identifiable by her ears. A spokesman for Remington's Fist said, "Sophia will remain in our hearts and in the approximately 45,000 flards that rolled off the production line in the last few days." A tragic ending for Sophia Remington after a turbulent 2.5 years since she took over the company. And an ending of sorts tonight for 3 stories we've been following. Going Svunderground. Sophia Remington was forced to resign today after evidence emerged of horrifying troglodyte creatures living in her low-cost subterranean housing development. A typically defiant Sophia, quoted while leaving Remington's Fist headquarters for what we can safely assume is the final time, said, "The mole people are no threat to the company, and there's not a lawyer among them who can say otherwise, or enough light to draw up the paperwork." A bittersweet ending for Miss Remington after an eclectic 2.5 years since she took over the company. 3 of our favourite stories come to an end this evening. First, water conundrum. When rains flooded the former MOOBS shaft, now amusement park, many thought the deaths of hundreds of visitors would have finally brought an end to the cursed project. But Sophia Remington remained undaunted, as has been typical of her time at the top. Rebranding as Sophia's Moist Splash Palace, the world's wettest water park has been an overwhelming success and was this year's most popular family fun day. Shares in Remington's Fist have soared, bringing a happy and prosperous end to this story for the daring CEO and her unpredictable moves. Wong, but not forgotten. The scientific community today remembers the loss of the many celebrated academics who lost their lives in a rash escape from Dante's taint 1 year ago. The costly voyage, led by David Wong, was recklessly hasty, and while a handful of survivors made it home, the casualties were considerable. Among the dead were noted prize-winning marine biologist Ingrid Svorsborgen-Horgensvoord and a bunch of other nerds. They will be missed. Fun guy. Unexpected news today as 2 familiar scientists announced the birth of an extraordinary child. The underground struggle of doctors David Wong and Ingrid Svorsborgen-Horgensvoord captured the hearts of people around the world. And after an arduous return voyage, which took over a year, the couple say they've never been happier. Baby Dante is said to be healthy, if a bit partial to the airing cupboard. It's just a body. A picture received today has shed some light on the activities of the academics that were left behind in Dante's taint. The image seems to show that after the simpler scientists were sidelined from salvation, they've eschewed scholarly study in favour of physical intimacy. Their abandoned families insist that they're carrying out complex biological investigations, while this anchor points out that as scientists, they were always bound to experiment. Which caves up? A worrying image has emerged depicting the captain charged with the rescue of the stranded scientists in Dante's taint. After many months of radio silence from the substandard skipper, it was feared all hope was lost. And it seems like hope wasn't the only thing, as Archibald Viator III has reportedly arrived at the wrong cave altogether. As all hopes of a safe return for David and Ingrid's team are abandoned, questions have to be asked. Questions like, who gave him his licence, and where did he get that moustache? Pass the salt. A concerning end to the tale of the trapped academics of Dante's Taint, as an image transmitted to the surface seems to show them cooking the captain of the rescue craft. After public indifference led to the mission's funding being slashed, Captain Audrey Aerospace was forced to wrestle the hastily constructed vessel through treacherous caverns to reach the stranded scientists. But on arrival, she found she hadn't been given enough fuel for a return journey. So it seems, with their fate sealed, the shipwrecked scholars have reacted in the only reasonable fashion. Let's hope they've got enough croutons to go with their sailor soup. A tribe called best. Good news from Dante's Taint, as it seems the community of scientists, now permanently trapped underground, have adapted well to their forever home. Analysts say that a completely new subterranean society has developed in the caves, with a rock-based economy, annual moss-eating competition and a new language, or possibly disease, called taint tongue. It seems like Ingrid and David's team are thriving. It's just a shame that they've started eating the weak. Svorsborgen slaughter. A sad end to the tale of the struggling scientists of Dante's Taint today, as reports emerge of a mutual agreement to end it all. With little support from the public and no much-needed supplies from above ground, the academics took the unthinkable decision to drink 18 cans of diet stank. Could this catastrophe have been avoided? And what on earth are they putting in that drink? The whole nine flards. The academic world rejoiced today as the respected doctors David Wong and Ingrid Svorsborgen made it safely to dry land. They were picked up by the Coast Guard this morning, floating in a homemade vehicle they've dubbed the Flardmobile. They said, without the unwavering support of the public, we would have never made it out alive. Not to mention the quick thinking to send us those flards. They really can do anything. If that's the case, why is my B-Day so enthusiastic? Teleportainted? In a surprising turn of events, the remaining scientists of Dante's Taint seem to have vanished into thin air. After many months of silence, the rescue team finally reached the remote caves to find them completely deserted. This strange, unknown piece of equipment was all that was found. Theories range from teleportation to time travel or just a half-finished hot tub. Viva Pinata, a confusing end to the Dante's Taint saga today, as a final image transmitted from the remote caves shows the fate of its academic inhabitants. After a colourful pinata arrived in the caves, it seemed some sort of religious tradition developed, as the sickly scientists gathered daily for ritual worship before dying of hemorrhageal rhinosinusitis. It's a real shame they didn't bother to crack it open and access the life-saving penicillin inside. Nerdpocalypse. It seems the story of the stranded scientists of Dante's Taint came to an end today with the final chapter written in blood. There don't seem to be any survivors in the remote cave system after a violent conflict broke out about the correct syntax of a binomial equation. Abandoned by their colleagues on the surface, denied supplies by a world which moved on without them, we have to ask ourselves who's to blame for this crisis? And where did they get those swords from? Grave Cave. Char-grilled consequences today as a malfunctioning laser wall seems to have incinerated all life in Dante's Taint. The high-tech barricade, which received unprecedented funding, was designed by David Wong to separate the battling brainiacs. David's pile of ashes did not immediately respond to our requests for comment. Arty Pants. Reports that the scientists trapped in Dante's Taint have settled in for the long haul seem to have been confirmed today. Seen here enjoying their first annual arts festival, which they call Dante's Paint, the team say they've changed focus. Science got us into this mess, but only the arts can save us, said one of the exhibitors from beside a sculpture made of pubic hair and feces. Things tain't what they used to be. A disturbing final image transmitted by the doomed scientists of Dante's Taint seems to show the frightening direction things have taken. An alleged prison camp was established by an extreme faction who gained power on a promise to purify the taint. Warden Thaddeus Cruelty is adamant that no laws have been broken, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. The perks of being a wall. A horrifying end to the story of the scientists trapped in Dante's Taint, as the two warring factions erect a gory barricade to separate them. After a leaders' summit failed to make the peace, and with no supplies for a traditional wall, it seems the bloodthirsty brainiacs have found a rather gruesome solution to the problem. Although, ironically, the bigger the wall, the less they need it. The miracle of Earth. Wonderful news from the imprisoned intellectuals of Dante's Taint as they announced the world's first subterranean baby was born yesterday. Proud parents Wong and Svorsborg and Horgensvoord were all smiles as they showed off little Dante. Although authorities admit there is now no way to bring them home, the team say they're happy with their new underground residence. They said, "There's always room for a little one in the taint." Man on. Footballer Johnny Hamsleeves and his new wife Tiffany Lamour proudly announced today that their little team was 1-0 up at full time, which apparently means that they're having a baby. Once beset by tabloid controversy, Johnny seems to be settling well into family life, calling this latest news the ultimate golden goal, if a golden goal also peed on you. Bruising bride. Things seem to have gone from bad to worse for Mr. and Mrs. Hamsleeves as speculation emerges as to the state of their marriage. As Tiffany completes her 10 months community service for the assault of revellers at the wedding, Johnny told a close friend that she seemed to be happier cleaning pavements than she ever did cleaning my trophies. A source close to the couple said, although they're terribly unhappy, they want to stay together for the goldfish. Full time. The sporting world mourned the loss of a former hero today at the funeral of footballing star Johnny Hamsleeves. Dogged by controversy throughout his life, the troubled striker's behaviour became more and more erratic in recent years. His tragic and avoidable death at the age of just 29 will come as a blow to his literally tens of fans around the world. Clean sheet. After the cheeky wedding that had the whole territory talking, everyone's favourite nudists, Johnny Hamsleeves and Tiffany Lamour, have launched an informative guide to lovemaking called The Wonder of Coitus. The Edurotic Handbook is the newest product in their body positivity range that includes a graphic novel about foreplay called Give It a Minute and their #1 single, Peace Anthem for Jilted Butt Plugs. Johnstown, seen here extolling the virtues of the nutmeg to his congregation of fanatics, former footballer Johnny Hamsleeves has shocked the world by rebranding himself as the Right Reverend Holy John Love. The controversial preacher insists his followers make an annual pilgrimage to his bank from their commune in the grounds of his mansion, where daily services mainly involve football chants and ball worship. Man United. A happily ever after for Johnny Hamsleeves and partner and former teammate Eric Justin, who finally tied the knot this week. Speaking as the pair headed off for their honeymoon in Territory 15, Johnny acknowledged that there would be many in the football world who wouldn't accept his choice of partner. "I think it's time people grew up," he said. "Some people are ginger. Get over it." Taking a dive. It seems a former sporting icon mired with misfortune has found himself at his lowest ebb. Johnny Hamsleeves, who was once paid thousands a week to play at national level, has wound up sleeping rough on the streets of the capital. Speaking this morning, he said, "I don't mind too much. I always like the outdoors, and you're never too old for the Pigeon League." Thinking outside the box. The fate of Johnny Hamsleeves was finally revealed today as his publicist released this new image of the sportsman. The accompanying statement said that thanks to the experimental work of the good doctor and his team, Johnny did not die of his rare and fatal illness. Instead, he will live a full and happy life as soon as we've worked out where to find a new body and how to pop him in there. Personal growth. Reformed bad boy Johnny Hamsleeves proved the naysayers wrong last night as he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Medicine. Hailed as a visionary since his discovery of the cure for cancer last year, Johnny has come a long way from his sporting roots. In his acceptance speech, he acknowledged his battle with addiction and thanked his team of grad students before attempting to swap shirts with the chemistry laureate. Hit the woodwork. Disgraced former sportsman Johnny Hamsleeves isn't half the man he used to be. Quite literally. After selling a kidney a year ago to pay for his substance addiction, Johnny says he's finally found the answer. In a candid interview with Grip magazine, Johnny admits that although he finally has enough cash to support his habit, his homemade prosthetics have made taking the drugs a bit tricky. Cash in the hat trick. Beer tycoon and world's richest man, Johnny Hamsleeves, is seeking to cement his place in the annals of history by today releasing his own currency. Johnny claims the mint he's installed on the east shore of his private island can print 100,000 hammies an hour. Lacking any status as legal tender whatsoever, he encourages customers to use it to fill swimming pools, decorate living rooms, or trick the elderly. Beery-eyed, hapless entrepreneur Johnny Hamsleeves has sold a priceless collectible at auction today. The one-of-a-kind piece was created after an accident at his high-tech bottling plant. Collector Ron Jobbins, who bought the work, said he intended to add it to his collection of historically significant session ales. He says he keeps it at the back of the fridge because it keeps giving him funny looks. Ailstorm. Residents of Grizzleford are being warned to stay in their homes today as it seems to be raining beer. Hundreds of bottles of Headbutt Ale have been pelting the town since about 9 o'clock this morning. Headbutt Ale founder Johnny Hamsleeves says they have no idea of the cause and can't be held legally liable. There have been 8 cases of bludgeonings, 4 of lacerations, and 1 toddler arrested for being intoxicated while in charge of a tricycle. Penalty box. The notorious decline of Johnny Hamsleeves finally concluded today when Judge Randall Severity sentenced him to life for a string of violent offences, nearly all committed under the influence of alcohol. The judge described him as a man who had made some entertaining but ultimately poor choices. Johnny plans to set up a prison five-a-side team as soon as he's had the time to carve a whistle out of soap.